Welcome to the ultimate Blox Fruits sword tier list. Whether you're a pirate who's been sailing the seas for ages or a newbie just setting foot on this exciting adventure, choosing the right sword can be a game changer. In today's video, we're diving deep into the best swords to wield, breaking down each one to help you pick the perfect blade for your playstyle. Whether you're all about slashing through enemies or dealing massive damage, we've got you covered with the most up-to-date rankings from the latest update. Get ready for some insightful tips and tricks as we explore everything from powerful, high-tier swords to more niche, lesser-known blades that can still pack a punch. By the end of this guide, you'll know exactly which sword will help you dominate in Blox Fruits and make your journey through the game a lot smoother. So grab your weapon and let's dive right into the sword rankings. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking swords in Blox Fruits. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The swords in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Trident, Dual-Headed Blade, Iron Mace, Shark Sword, Warden Sword, Dual Katana, and the Cutlass. Alright, so let's talk swords in Blox Fruits. I know, swords are so iconic in this game, and there are a ton of them to choose from. Some are flashy, some are useful, and others? Well, let's just say they're not the best choices out there. In today's video, we're diving into the D tier swords, the ones that are a little, well, less exciting. But hey, even these have their moments, right? Let's break down the swords that might not make it to your main loadout. First up, we've got the Trident. This one is an absolute fan favorite when it comes to looks. I mean, it's got that cool water-themed design and it's got a pretty neat backstory with its underwater origins. But when it comes to actual gameplay, not the strongest. It's one of the 4 tridents in the game, so if you've got a collector's mindset, sure, it's something you want. But for pure performance, there are definitely better options. Still, if you're into the whole aquatic warrior vibe, it's a solid weapon to have on your shelf, even if it's not top tier material. Next, we've got the Dual-Headed Blade. This sword was added right from the very start of the game, and it's certainly stuck around for a reason. Its design is pretty slick, and in terms of power, it's not terrible. But when you start comparing it to some of the later, more powerful swords, it falls a little short. It's decent for the mid-game grind, but once you start leveling up, there are other blades that just pack more of a punch. Still, if you like that distinct look, it's worth giving a go. Now, let's talk about the Iron Mace. The nostalgic one. This weapon has been around since the very beginning, and it's definitely one for the OG players. It's got that old school charm, and while it's not exactly the most powerful, it's still a classic. If you're in the early stages of the game, this sword will do the job, but as you progress, you'll quickly realize that it's not gonna hold up against the higher tier stuff. Still, sometimes it's fun to bring out the classics and swing around a bit of history, right? Moving on to the Shark Sword. It's got a fun mechanic with that awesome 4th strike where you slam the ground, which gives it some extra flair. Plus, it's got a special place in the hearts of Fishman Raider fans. But when you really sit down and think about it, the Shark Sword doesn't quite hit as hard as some of the other weapons you'll encounter later. Sure, it's fun to use, but the power just isn't quite there. If you're rocking a Fishman build, it could be a cool weapon, but there are better options once you level up. The Warden's Sword is next on our list, and this one is a bit of an enigma. It's huge, it's imposing, and it's got a solid design, but let's be real. It's not the most efficient sword in terms of damage. Its long reach is nice, but when you're comparing it to faster, higher damage weapons, it starts to lose its shine. It's one of those swords that feels cool to wield, but it's not necessarily the best choice for taking down foes quickly. If you're aiming for style over substance though, the Warden's Sword might just be your thing. Then we've got the Dual Katana. Now, this sword is a little different from the others we've talked about because it's actually pretty reliable in the early game. It's a common sword, sure, but it's got a nice wide area of effect, which can be super helpful when you're fighting multiple enemies. But as you start leveling up, the Dual Katana becomes less impressive. It's a great starter sword, but eventually you'll want to move on to something with a bit more power behind it. Still, don't sleep on it if you're just starting your adventure in Blox Fruits. Up next, the Katana. This sword has been around since the very first update, and it's one of the most basic options in the game. While it's nice that it's affordable, who doesn't love a good budget option? It doesn't really hold up when you start facing tougher opponents. The remodeled slashing animation in Update 17 was a nice touch, but let's be honest, the Katana is more of a stepping stone than a sword you'll use long term. It's not a bad sword, but it's definitely not a top pick. And finally, we've got the Cutlass. While the Cutlass might not stand out in terms of raw power, it's got one thing going for it. it's easy to get. If you're just starting out and need something to get the job done, this sword can be a good option. It's got that old school feel, and it can get you through some tough spots, but as you unlock better swords, you'll quickly realize it's not something you'll rely on for long. It's definitely more about the adventure and exploring what Blox Fruits has to offer than about being the strongest sword on the block. So, there you have it. The D-tier swords of Blox Fruits. They've all got their charm, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not the ones you'll want to be swinging when you're aiming for the top. But hey, sometimes it's fun to experiment with these weapons and see what kind of combos you can pull off, even if they're not the most powerful choices out there. The swords in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Koko, Jitter, Sadi, Longsword, Pipe, Wando, Triple Katana, and Poldner First Form. Let's dive into the world of Blox Fruits swords, where style meets power in the most unexpected ways. While we've got the flashy S-tier blades that everyone loves to brag about, today we're taking a closer look at some of the lesser known but still super fun C-tier swords. Trust me, these are weapons that might not be the absolute best, but they've got charm, uniqueness, and definitely pack a punch in the right hands. First up, we've got the Koko sword. Now, don't let the katana label fool you. This thing is actually an Adachi, a big sword with even bigger vibes. The Koko sword has some cool smooth moves similar to Shisui and Saber V2, which makes it feel like you're swinging a katana in slow motion, but in the best way possible. It also has this super neat aura effect around its blade, making it not just a weapon, but a walking light show. Powered by the Control Fruit, it's a solid choice for those looking for something a little different. Then there's the G-tier, which first appeared back in Update 10. It's a sword that's as interesting as it is practical, as it comes infused with smoke powers. Now, if you've ever wanted to wield a sword that feels like you're shrouding your enemies in mystery, this one's for you. Plus, it's the weapon of choice for the level 1150 boss, Smoke Admiral, which is a pretty good flex if you ask me. The Sadi sword, oh man, it's one of the most elegant blades you'll come across. Its golden glow screams royalty, and it's got the power to back it up. Sure, it's not the most mind-blowing sword in the game, but it's definitely a symbol of power and finesse. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned player, this sword will always make you feel like you've got something special in your hands. Next, let's talk about the longsword. Added in Update 8, the longsword has been a reliable pick for many players, new and old. It's got a simple design, but it's got that classic feel you just can't shake off. The best part? It's got a cool history in the game's lore, making it more than just a weapon. It's a piece of the story. Now, we're heading into more unconventional territory with the pipe. This isn't your average sword. In fact, it's more of a blunt weapon that first showed up in the game's very first update. Alongside the hitter and pole first form, it provides a unique twist on the usual swords. Despite looking pretty simple, it's a solid contender if you're into that different but effective vibe. The Wando sword is another fan favorite that comes with a bit of mysticism. With its combination of power and precision, it's not just about how hard you hit, but how you hit. There's something magical about wielding the Wando. It's like you're channeling the spirit of a sword master from another time. Definitely worth adding to your collection if you love weapons that feel legendary. If you're looking for style and power in equal measure, the Triple Katana might just be your best bet. It's been in Blox Fruits since the very beginning, and while it's not the top dog, it certainly holds its own. The Triple Katana is all about the aesthetic. 3 blades all at once. It looks as cool as it sounds, and it's got enough power to make it a solid pick for any battle. Lastly, let's wrap things up with the pole first form. This sword's got a lot of things going for it, like its electrical vibrations that really make it stand out in combat. Plus, the ability to evolve into something even stronger just gives it that extra oomph. If you're into playing around with abilities like Rumble, this sword definitely becomes a powerful asset in your arsenal. So there you have it, some of the coolest C-tier swords in Blox Fruits. They may not be the absolute best, but they're still a lot of fun to use. Plus, who doesn't love wielding a sword with a bit of style and personality? Let me know which one's your favorite in the comments, and don't forget to swing by for more sword talk soon. The swords in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dark Dagger, Fox Lamp, Saber, Toshita, Twin Hooks, Bicento, Canvander, and Hallow Scythe. Let's talk about some of the best swords you can wield in Blox Fruits. I'm not just talking about the flashy ones, though trust me, some of these are absolutely gorgeous. I mean swords that are fun to use, practical in battle, and still manage to pack a punch. So, grab your weapon and let's dive into the world of blades, starting with one that may just surprise you. First up, we've got the Dark Dagger. You might think, A dagger, isn't that a little small for this kind of game? But don't let its size fool you. It shares the same click animation as the dark blade, but in a more compact form, and its hitbox isn't as small as you'd expect. This catches a lot of inexperienced players off guard. What's more, if you time it right, you can actually land a melee attack during the Z proficient impale. Yep, it adds another level of strategy to this little sword, and with its upgrade potential, the dark dagger quickly became a fan favorite after its addition in Update 15. Next, let's talk about the Fox Lamp. Now, this one's all about versatility and agility. PvP players will love it. You can chain combos with moves like the spinning attack and the infernal firestorm, which is a dash that packs a serious punch. It's flashy, it's quick, and it demands precision, making it perfect for players who enjoy that tactical edge in battle. While it shines in PvP though, don't expect it to be a game changer in PvE. Its tactical nature makes it less effective in those situations. Still, if you're looking for something that looks cool and plays with style, the Fox Lamp is definitely worth checking out. Moving on to something a little more classic, the saber. If you're into grinding, the saber is your best friend. Its primary attack does high damage, with barely any recoil and a low cooldown. That means you can just keep slashing away at enemies without worrying about being interrupted. Plus, its V2 version has the deadly rush move that can dish out some serious damage if you use it at just the right distance. But keep in mind, the saber doesn't break instinct, so you'll want to pair it with another weapon that can handle that. Still, for pure damage output, it's hard to beat. Then there's the Tashita, a weapon that's not just about combat power, it's a badge of honor. This cursed sword has a unique place in the game, especially when combined with the Yama to form the cursed dual katana. The Tashita offers both strength and style, and unlocking it gets you the title of Celestial Swordsman. Sounds pretty epic, right? It's more than just a weapon, it's a symbol of your skill and determination in Blox Fruits. So, if you're up for a challenge, the Tashita is definitely worth pursuing. Let's not forget about the twin hooks. These are a bit more unconventional, with a design that stands out from the rest. Acquiring them is no easy feat, but once you do, they make a strong addition to your arsenal. Their unique look and powerful strikes are a treat for anyone who loves showing off in combat. The twin hooks might not be the easiest weapon to master, but if you can pull it off, you'll feel like a true Blox Fruits pro. Their design and power make them a must-have for any serious player. Next, we've got the Bicento V2. While it might not look all that different from its predecessor, don't let that fool you. The V2 version changes things up by boosting the damage output. Its M1 attack pattern does an average of 386 damage, the Z move hits for 5008, and the X move reaches a whopping 5617 damage. The Bicento V2 is one of the most powerful weapons in the game, and if you're looking to dish out serious damage, it's a great choice to have in your collection. Let's talk about the Kamvander sword next. This one's for players who love a little bit of flair in their fighting. It's not just about power, it's about style. The Kamvander sword adds a touch of elegance to your moves with its stunning visuals, like the petals that scatter when you strike. It's a weapon that looks just as good as it fights, adding that extra flair to your battles. If you enjoy using a weapon that's both beautiful and deadly, this sword is a must try. And finally, we've got the Hallow Scythe. This weapon doesn't just pack power, it's got an air of mystery too. The engravings on the blade are written in Dovazul, the language from Skyrim, and they translate to death. That alone gives it some serious mystique, but the inscriptions on the handle add even more depth. If you're into weapons with a story, the Hallow Scythe is definitely one to consider. It's not just about its power, it's about the lore and the dark aesthetic that come with it, so there you have it. Whether you're looking for power, style, or a weapon with some serious flair, these swords and Blox Fruits have got you covered. The swords in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Spiky Trident, Midnight Blade, Soul Cane, Yama, Rengoku, Shisui, and Pole's second form. Alright, let's talk about some of the absolute beasts of Blox Fruits. I'm talking about those legendary swords that are not only powerful but come with some serious style. These weapons are more than just tools for combat, they're practically icons in the game. So, buckle up, because we're diving into the world of swords that will have you feeling like a true warrior. First up, we've got the Spiky Trident, and let me tell you, this one is a true gem. It's not your average sword, this weapon has some serious combat potential. With its sharp design and insane abilities, the Spiky Trident stands out in the game. If you're a fruit user, this sword becomes even more powerful, making it the perfect choice to take your playstyle to the next level. Honestly, with this sword, world domination in Blox Fruits is basically within your reach. Next, we've got the Midnight Blade. which was added in Update Tarsuv. This bad boy is used by the Cursed Captain, a raid boss who's just as legendary as the sword itself. The Midnight Blade's damage is no joke. It hits a 4-hit pattern with an average of 3 65 damage, and that's before factoring in the special abilities. The Z ability deals 456 damage, and the X ability, a whopping 47 damage. It's got everything: design, power, and the fame that comes with wielding it. If you're looking for a weapon with a rich history and incredible damage output, this is your go-to. Let's switch gears and talk about the Soul Cane, a sword that brings some magic and mystery into play. Introduced in the second update of the game, the Soul Cane has this awesome ability to summon souls. The lore surrounding this weapon is just as intriguing as its abilities. Once owned by a king, its power was passed down through the ages. With its cool design and upgradable abilities, it's one of those hidden gems that might just become your favorite weapon in Blox Fruits. Moving on, we've got the Yama sword, and wow, where do I even begin? This katana is steeped in lore and power. It's said to be possessed by a demon, giving it that insane edge when you're in a fight. Added in Update 15, Yama, along with the Tashita sword, forms part of the Cursed Katana duo. When you pair them together, you unlock the Cursed Dual Katana. And trust me, that's when the real power comes into play. If you want a weapon that screams power, this is the one you're after. Then there's the Rengoku, a sword that's not just a weapon, but a symbol of beauty and power. With its fiery design and rich background, this sword has become a fan favorite. It's not just about the looks though, it packs a punch. The Rengoku embodies the spirit of battle with its demonic flame power, and wielding it gives you that perfect balance of elegance and pure force. If you love a sword with both style and substance, the Rengoku's got your back. Now let's talk about the Shisui sword. If there's one sword that represents the perfect balance between mystery and power, it's this one. The Shisui has an incredible lore that makes it even more special, but it's also just a straight up powerful weapon. Whether you're aiming to collect all the legendary swords or you just need a reliable weapon for tough fights, the Shisui is a sword you definitely don't want to pass up. Last but not least, we've got the pole, second form. This sword is all about control, specifically lightning control. It might take a bit of effort to get your hands on it, but once you do, it's a game changer. Not only does it look amazing, but its power is just off the charts. If you're looking for something that gives you the ability to control the battlefield with lightning speed and precision, the pole, second form, is your weapon of choice. So, there you have it. The best of the best when it comes to swords in Blox Fruits. Whether you're looking for sheer power, incredible lore, or just an all-around epic weapon, these swords have got something for everyone. Each one brings its own unique flair to the game, so it's all about finding the one that fits your playstyle. Now go out there and start wielding some of these legendary blades. The swords in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Triple Dark Blade, True Triple Katana, Cursed Dual Katana, Dragon Heart, Dragon Trident, Shark Anchor, Gravity Cane, Dark Blade, and Buddy Sword. Alright, let's dive into the world of swords in Blox Fruits. If you're someone who loves slashing through mobs, dominating PvE, or just collecting rare items, then you know how crucial having the right sword is. Today, we're talking about the top tier swords in the game. The ones that stand out not just for their damage, but for their exclusivity, rarity, and that special wow factor. Let's go. First up, we've got the Triple Dark Blade. Oh boy, if you've seen one of these in the wild, you know it's not just another sword. This beauty is a game changer. It was dropped into the game way back in Update 14, but it was shrouded in mystery until it was officially revealed. Getting your hands on one of these is not easy. It's one of the rarest swords in the game, and honestly, it's almost like a flex to have one. Even though it got a slight nerf in terms of damage over time, it's still a prized possession. Think of it as the VIP pass of swords in Blox Fruits. Only the select few get to wield it. But hey, it's not all about rarity. Let's talk about power. The True Triple Katana is definitely up there in the ranks. This sword is the embodiment of raw power. It's a bit of a grind to get, but once you have it, you're practically unstoppable. It's not just strong, it's got that legendary mystique that makes it one of the most coveted swords in the game. For those who are dedicated and have put in the hours, this is the weapon to show off. Of course, no conversation about top tier swords is complete without mentioning the Cursed Dual Katana, or CDK as the cool kids call it. It's a sword that separates the true Blox Fruits pros from the rest of us. Reaching a mastery of 375 for it is no easy feat, but if you put in the time, you're rewarded with insane damage output. Its tornado-style attack deals massive AoE damage and is perfect for taking on large groups of enemies. This sword really shines when you're facing multiple opponents in a fight. Just be warned, it's not a sword for the faint of heart. Next up, let's talk about the Dragonheart. If you're all about that high damage and AoE fire abilities, then this sword is calling your name. It's got a bit of a learning curve, especially if you want to master its moves, but once you do, you're looking at some serious power. Its Draconic Blitz move is a game changer, offering great mobility and crowd control. Sure, its Infernal Catastrophe has a long cooldown, but when it hits hard. Perfect for farming or getting the upper hand in PvP. Then, we've got the Dragon Trident. This one's a bit of a throwback. Added in Update 14, the Dragon Trident has really carved out a niche for itself. Not only is it a rare sword, but it's also tied to one of the most iconic bosses in the game, the Tidekeeper. If you manage to snag one of these, you're not just getting a sword, you're getting a piece of Blox Fruits history. The Shark Anchor is another weapon that deserves a mention. While it might be a bit tough for new players to fully master, once you get the hang of it, it's one of the best swords out there. It's got insane damage potential and is fantastic for taking down multiple enemies at once. Its ability to break an opponent's instinct is a real game changer, giving you that extra tactical advantage in any battle. If you're into swords with a bit of flair, the Gravity Cane might be up your alley. This one's all about unique gameplay. Its Meteor Barrage ability isn't just flashy, it's got destructible physics that really change the way you approach fights. It's not without its glitches, sometimes the sword just refuses to drop. But when it works, it's a blast to use. You can't talk about Blox Fruits swords without mentioning the Dark Blade. This sword is iconic for a reason. It's the only sword in the game locked behind a game pass, so right away, you know it's something special. Whether it's in its regular form or the rarer triple Dark Blade, it's got that classic Blox Fruits feel. But what really sets it apart is its power. This sword can tear through enemies like butter, and it's one of the most reliable swords for players at all levels. Last but definitely not least, the Buddy Sword. If you're looking for a sword that's not just powerful, but also feels like a reward for your dedication, this is it. Getting the Buddy Sword is no small feat, and it's one of those swords that make you feel like you've truly earned it. Its design is slick, and its abilities are solid, making it a must-have for players who enjoy a bit of challenge and exclusivity. In the end, these swords aren't just about slashing your way through enemies, they're about showcasing your dedication to the game and reaping the rewards of all that hard work. Whether you're a veteran of Blox Fruits or just starting out, these swords are the cream of the crop. So, if you've got one, or are lucky enough to get one, hold on to it tight. You're wielding more than just a weapon, you're holding a piece of Blox Fruits history. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.